akože síce hokej, takže asi tá
Good
účasť bude možno
afternoon,
menšia, ako sme
everyone.
očakávali. Každopádne bolo prihlásených asi
No,
30 ľudí,
there is
myslím,
a
že
hockey
dobre čas
game going on, so
tu.
maybe there will be less
Takže
people than we
začneme.
expected. I think the majority of you have
Večer sme
already come.
pozorovali na rôzne
This
informácie,
is
ktoré
going to
boli
be a
pripravené.
rich evening, full of information. So, my respect to all of you who made it
Možno trošku neskôr.
in
Moje
time.
meno je Stanislav Krajčí.
My name is Stanislav Krajčí, and I'm a Creative Institute director. And from those of you I see today, I think we have met several times with most of you. There are many of my colleagues here today with me. This is a broad team, a broader team from the team that is responsible for the opening ceremony, headed by Katka, my colleague, who will have her own address this evening later on with interesting data. First, I would like to share a few things to start with. Why is it as late as now to share the statistics and the data? 3 months after we had the opening ceremony, what we're trying to do is to share as much as possible the information that we have. And I think you deserve to know what has been done with the public funding. But even more importantly, the opening ceremony started or was started its initial phase 3 years ago, and it will be later followed up by the legacy activities we would like to maintain when this year is over. So the preparatory phase comprised a number of monitoring reports we were submitting to the European Commission. I will briefly share this with you. The data was not collected only during the opening ceremony, but they had been collected 3 years before. Why is it so important? This title of European Culture Capital has been awarded for the last 40 years, and the more we approach the present day, we realize that this title is not so much important for big cities, large-scale cities, but for small-scale cities that could actually have more tourism, have more impetus for their development. And thanks to this detailed monitoring, we can later monitor, we can later evaluate and assess. So obviously the 3 years had its climax by this grand opening ceremony. Although it in itself lasted only 3 days, but it has so far been the most expensive and the grandest event. This is a fresh video recorded from the opening ceremony. So now I would let you see it in its entirety. So let's go back a little bit in memory to see how it looked like. thank you. Just to make things more interesting, how many of you participated at the opening ceremony? I think the majority of you, including myself, had to be there. Anyway, we will talk also more about the planning phase and about the dramaturgy of this. Just as I commented this before, also Mr. Muti is here, who will share a few interesting data, why it looked the way it looked, and then why we were expecting that the streets will bring us good results, but maybe something beyond that. So I will first start with the basic inputs. So we have defined three strategic areas based on something that may not be so familiar to you, although they are included in the strategic material published by the city. They commonly define where the politics should follow. People and relations, the community, the development of the community, because the community development actually was something that was headed towards the opening ceremony, and as far as we know, we have been the only city that opened its 3 day event through communities in its self-supporting activities involving the communities. Then the second pillar is the places and the public space. You could see that, for example, that we were able to open the specific street to have the run there or to have a parade cooperating with the inhabitants, with those who visit the city. And this has been one of the impetus why many places have gone reconstruction, for example, or including the bridge that we have funded, the reconstruction of the bridge that is to be completed. Maybe within the horizon of 10 years, it will bring funding. You need to, you need to attract investors, developers, and to reach this, you need to make the city, to turn the city to something unique. We have a number of 50,000 people cities in Europe, but to stand out, you need something. You need to build on a legacy, and a cultural legacy. Plus, you also need something new. So this opening ceremony was something I would say crazy. We tried to make a dialogue between the castle and the people in the city. And also, the place we're now here, the Creative Center Hviezda, which is the Star Creative Center in its translation, falls into the topic of how to take the creative industry to the next level, and also make it part of the development of the local community. All these three strategic things create a mix of how the program was developed. The agenda, of course, I will not go over the individual points of the agenda. And just to let you know, there are more than 33 events listed that comprise the opening weekend. This is just to show that Trenčín is interested to offer not only a romantic view of the city itself, but also to enhance the culture on its streets. Speaking of funding and finances, is something that many people don't like, but I do like it. You know, because I need to talk about how things have been coming back to us and whether or not they have uh, made sense. I will maybe help myself with a famous phrase spoken by the parliament, uh, the chairman of the parliament. This costs something, of course, he says, but this is more than all other things. This is a great investment into future. We had more than 100 journalists from different states, different cities. And for example, these are the numbers that testify to the fact that we have we have spent almost 2.3 million euro, and I add to this that it did cost so much with the plan or with the intention to show that people in Trenčín can be proud of what they do as Slovaks, being Slovaks, and we can also manage and organize events uh, that make us part of the European community, and we are really competitive. So this is my broad view on how things stand. So to let you know how things are from the broader perspective, my colleague will follow up on my presentation, and then my female colleague as well, Katka. So, but now I would like to ask Lumir to take the stage and tell you something more about how the program was structured. Maybe you've seen something of it, but Lumir will make more sense of it. So Lumir is going to take over from now on. Okay, so this is how things go. My name is Lumir. Those of you who do not know me, since we are broadcasting also to the international community, I was the main director of the opening ceremony, the producer as well. And since my colleague is going to present a lot of data, and a lot has already been presented, so I was asked by the director to give you a closer view on what it was about. I was told to be concise and to be brief. I could go on for hours and maybe days to talk about the opening ceremony, but I will do two things. First, I would like to, uh, you know, maybe for the first time publicly thank. It has been really a big honor for me. This is the second time that I was the director of the opening ceremony. The first time it was in Košice. I did it. I'm one of the very few people in Europe who have been given the chance of be twice directors of the opening ceremonies. And secondly, I would like to thank all of you who have taken part in the organization, the preparation, whether it was artists, volunteers, representatives of the city, the region. I did thank all these people in social networks, but I did not thank all of them, partially because I lay down with fever and I was not able to thank more people. So now I would like to take up this opportunity to thank the rest of you. You have been great. So, uh, as I said, we could go on talking about the opening ceremony for days from different perspectives, different outlooks. We could also show a lot of things, how things should be done, because this has been an extraordinary event that has no similar event. And then we're talking about big festivals, and yet they cannot be compared to something that we have done here, because still those big events and festivals are for targeted to specific communities, to people, but it is normally done on different platforms. Here we were forced to do things and organize events for people who live their daily lives, those who are and those who are not interested at the same time in cultural events. So now this makes this has made it extraordinary, the things that we were able to do. Now, the objectives that you set for yourself, the goals you set for yourself are so many. You would like to fulfill them, but you know, I will give you just a short summary of what we have done. So let's go. I have divided this into what we were asked to do by the city, the tasks defined with the city mayor, with the associate mayors, with the director, and then secondly, the tasks or assignments that we ourselves were able to define as we came to terms with, guessing what other groups would expect, what the bid book expected, what the artists that participated would expect from this. So the first four points. Firstly, we wanted to have the best ever opening ceremony, although you don't find it written up there. So I said it should be one of the best events. And now, looking back over the last couple of months and with the results and feedback we got from the city, from the public bodies, and from the inhabitants, very, I, I should say, it was not bad, to be very modest, to modestly say it. Katka will later show you statistics, how people saw this event. Yeah, we also we are challenged by logistics, by transport, but these are the natural limiting factors that the city itself poses. So we had the ambition to be one of the best openings. Secondly, you know how the global situation, the European situation, to be a bearer of a grand idea and good legacy. So we wanted to send a signal that yes, we proudly are part of Europe. Thirdly, we articulated our values that we want to be interconnected and network. And so, fourthly, this should be so extraordinary, and especially if you are Trenchin based, to be proud of what you have experienced. So these are the first 4 points, and then later on we were able to define the next 13 points for ourselves. And I'll just go skim very briefly through all of them, and some of them will be dealt with in more detail. So the first thing, we know, we realize this is a project, this is a unique opportunity to show our talent, the talent that exists within the city and the region itself. So somehow this has taken us the biggest chunk of, Stano calls it, archaeology of relations. It has been quite an issue for us, a challenge to first define the goals, to work them out, to get the confidence by the artists, by the institutions. It was very demanding. We did not have enough time to do this, so this took us most of the time. That's why I talk about it as the first of the points. When you live in the city, there is some sort of lack of confidence. There are some clashing interests or visualizations. So first challenge we had was to win the confidence of people that were the stakeholders, whether it be museum, gallery, Trenchin self-governing unit, or the city itself, or folklore groups, or theatrical groups, music schools. And so this comprises hundreds of people, and I have had the chance to speak almost to all of these stakeholders. So this, time-wise, was the most demanding part, and I think it has been successfully done and organized. Secondly, Katka will show you shortly how Trenchin stands in terms of how confident we are towards people from foreign countries, from different stimuli, and you will see the data. So the second objective was through artists to establish positive relationships with the new element that comes from abroad. So when we first brought people from the outside or artists from here that came here, for example, Italian artists for the children's theater, it was a unique experience interconnecting children with the outside artists, or for example, Spanish artists that we were able to bring here. But this was the principle. So as long as I bring something from the outside, let it be extraordinary. Let me go back a little bit and to reiterate the fact that when we were advocating talents or talent pool, we decided this. We counted on the fact that 70 to 80% will be the locals who will come to these events. So we wanted to show this from a different point of view, cooperating with either international professionals or other people who would not normally cooperate with us, and thus to create a unique experience for those who would come to this event. So thirdly, that's something I mentioned, when you organize a big event, for example, it might even have 30,000 participants, or such as the Music Festival. We have had a lot more people visiting here, but here you work with people both who are and who are not interested. Here you work with people who may have not bought their ticket intentionally to come there. And so this poses a big challenge for you, how to attract these heterogeneous people to the city. Now, next point is this Trenchin is really an extraordinary, unique place thanks to its history, because the history started as a little settlement. a castle was built until the present day when Trenčín is considered an island of liberty. It's home to many identities, the genealogy of the place, a unique place to many initiatives and activities. And so we were thinking about how to make this uniqueness of Trenčín stand out. The point number 5, the main stage. This is an important thing. When I, with Stanislav, the director, gave thought to this, so we had many discussions of how costly this should be and how much it should cost, where it should be. There's an important thing that you should know. From my experiences being either a guest or an organizer of these events, I have learned, and I do know, the fact that when you are visited by international media and guests, there is one big main visual, which is the outcome of something, of this event, something that happened in the city, most of the time showing the main stage with the people that take place and participate on the main stage. And this is a message we'd like to send to Europe, something that we connect, something modern, something extraordinary, something that the modern, it has this modern spirit together with the castle that carries the history of the city. So this was the signal that we wanted to send to the Europe. Come here because the city can either show you its modern face as much as it can show you its ancient face, a historic face. So this was something that guided us to locate the main stage and how to locate it and where to locate it. This is a city that hosts maybe 2 big music festivals. If we were another city, you could easily set up a big stage, central stage, and have all the activities taking place there. However, if someone knows the particularities of this place here in Trenčín, it would not be as conducive to what we wanted to achieve as it really should be. Now, we wanted to achieve the fact that this is the heart of the city. What's the heart of the city? The square, the vicinity of the castle. And so the stage must portray and must bear the message of this is the heart, that it should be catchy, it should be impressive for those people who come there, and it should actually materialize what the city wants to become. Oh, now my thermoregulation is now perfect, so it's going okay. 6, we wanted to pay homage to the city's legacy and to the region. So very briefly, if you happen to plan something like this in the future, it's very important to perceive what people identify themselves with and what makes me proud, besides other cultural identities. For example, here in Slovakia, if you hear something like a folklore music or brass music, the brass music really touches the idea or touches the tone of my national pride, even more than underground or modern music. Although we have football, we have different connecting points where we could build our identity. We do realize that there are many points that could build our identity, and we are part of it. As such as we wanted to achieve the fact that we all want to unite ourselves where we belong. And I think we have been successful in this. For example, we started to have representatives of sports be there on the main stage and help us open the event. Or before a sport event, we would have a culture time. So not everything, 100% was reached the way we wanted, but mostly we have fulfilled our goal. Okay, number 7, we want to awaken curiosity. The marketing team did not really like me for this because they always wanted us, and they wanted to distill from us very violently what we wanted to show to people. So we had something in store. We wanted to surprise people, and we held it back. We didn't even tell it to our team. Well, the problem you have, or the issues that you meet with, you either want to have someone brought from the international community, and at the same time you work with people who are local here. So you have to really time how much you tell them and what messages you give them. If you tell them too early that you are going to bring someone else, they say, yeah, of course, we've seen this and we know what it's going to be. So you have to just have it in suspense, and we are so secretive about the main points. The auxiliary points we did share what to expect. Okay, we talk about 3 day event, the big event, the opening ceremony, but those who came there had to have their curiosity awakened, not just by the event itself, but by the community, by the informative campaign that preceded the opening ceremony. We had agreed with the city to install, for example, media or communication devices that forced people to pause, to just stop and think, give different ideas to things. So maybe some people thought there's going to be a new political party set up or something, whereas in reality these were excerpts and quotes from different, you know, literature and messages spoken or written by the Trenchin-based people in the past. So this is how we wanted to awaken curiosity. I gradually made my way to number 8, and so we said to ourselves, we're going to do 2 things. Of course, more things, but first of all, we said, let's try to include into the program things that normally would not be found there. There are marginal, something like literature, for example. So let's try to share with impact strong ideas of, let's say, Marcus Aurelius or Alexander Dubček, to hit people's attention, to make people more attentive, and maybe just lead them to think about Lord culture, literature in an active way. So I will not, talk more about this, but this was one of the objectives that we set to ourselves. And to talk about number 9 and number 10, I have to really say that this was like me, myself, and Stano. I am the author of the manifest, the call it manifest, and Stano is the author of the name or of the slogan that the city as a stage. So we wanted to, very simply, to show people what we wanted to do. So the 3-day event, we said to ourselves, well, okay, what to tell people to make them understand what we were going to do. And it was very nice that we could establish this simple connection that the city is to be as a stage. We are going to change, and we are changing the city as a stage is being changed during a performance. And then we asked ourselves what to do with the main show. And this is always a very treacherous situation, because those of you who know from other European cities, culture cities, there are always different struggles and barriers. But we had to ask ourselves the question, what makes us stand out? What is the trademark that makes us stand out? And it really is the inscription on the rock, the Roman inscription. And it was really symbolical, because at the time, during the Second World War, well, today we are during the time of war, and we're striving for peace. And so now we realize that we want to think of the inscription. The inscription was made by whom? By soldiers. What kind of soldiers? Well, legions, Roman legions by Marcus Aurelius. So ultimately, we found out that you actually can inscribe your name into the rock, but at the same time, you can be either someone who write your name into the rock, but at the same time be someone who is, thanks to his ideas and thanks to his works, someone who shares his legacy and leaves his legacy for centuries. And that was, for example, Marcus Aurelius' Stoic philosophy that has survived up until today. So why manifest? Manifest is a word that it's universal. It's also understood in all languages. One of its roots is manifest. Fest means festival. Some people would say money, which is money fest, but that would go beyond our imagination. Okay, the points 11, 12, and 13. Stano told me not to exceed 10-minute time. So 11, 12, and 13 lead us back to thinking that we wanted to have some sort of values communicated to the people, to the visitors. Uh, we also included the idea of bridge. That bridge will be worked more into the future. We wanted the bridge to reappear there, uh, to make it part of dance performances and other artistic performances, somehow to lead the visitors, the actors, that we are shifting from the city's identity, which first started as a historical identity, and think of culture as one of the bridges that will help open the city to the future challenges. I think this was something. This is something that has been successful, and we will show the perspective of full alive. Trenčín is really good, doing well in terms of the quality of life compared to other Slovak cities. And lastly, we have to inspire and give hope that never give up your hopes and positive thinking. Although those who lead us do the opposite thing. So what else to say? Please stay brave. We wanted to show you where the commitment is. There also is the way. So let's keep our fingers crossed because we really wanted to show you that Trenčín is an excellent example and a legacy to the world and to ourselves that this is really possible when you are committed and you are brave. So keep our finger crossed. Thank you. Okay. Katka is the chief of the department that's responsible for gathering statistics data. So, Katka, it is your turn now. Okay. In the meantime, a very pleasant evening to all of you. Thank you for coming. Just to start with, I would like to tell you why we have made my presentation about the research a part of this workshop. And the reason being because we have elaborated a research report from the opening ceremony because our research is large-scale research. We try to put in perspective a number of contexts, touching the European cultural capital. And as a research report, we called from the preparation up to the opening of the European culture capital. You will be given this publication, and I will show you just what it really contains to make you more hungry about the information that it contains. The evaluation of the European Culture Capital has been carried on by the team Data 26 team, four internal workers, myself including. Then we have a scientific board. We are a number of universities participate from the abroad, from Slovakia. We do have three colleagues here from Liverpool, um, one of them being that also can take some questions you might have. And then we have the citizens board staffed by representatives of the public. Even before we start do our research, we consult with these people and we make sure that the research is conducive to the reality as it is lived by the people. We do build our research on the combination of different types of methodology with the goal to do something, a triangulation, which we call it triangulation, which means evaluating and re-evaluating of things from different perspectives, not just from one single perspective, to deepen our knowledge. So I will demonstrate this on the example of the opening ceremony, where we were able to combine different methodologies. First, we did have quite a comprehensive questionnaire, being able to get more than 1,500 responses. Plus, we also do a follow-up questionnaire, which have been able to get 600 of these different responses. But to make it even more comprehensive, we did have a unique ethnographic research out in the streets where we would send 20 uh, investigators from, among students and our staff. And these people monitored people's behavior, the atmosphere, and the way how the visitors during the opening ceremony enjoyed the atmosphere and the activities, the events prepared for them, and the different places, and so this is how we were able to depict something that otherwise we would not probably have been able to get through the questionnaires. Speaking about the report itself, it's one of the first more comprehensive reports. So our investigation is a longitudinal study, started in 23 and will run until the end of 27. So this is a long-term study that actually deals with the long-term effects. For now, we have only preliminary findings that we have been able to process. All of our investigation will then be part of the final report you will be given and you will have access to. We are now starting to plan this final report. It will be made accessible in the second half of next year. Now, the report's findings can be summarized into or divided into 5 key messages. First being the fact that Trenčín opened itself to the world, already mentioned by my speakers. But I will tell you more about who visited us from the international arena. Secondly, we have found out that culture strengthens interconnectedness and social networking among people, but at the same time, we know that this confidence takes place at different levels. It's not uniform. And thirdly, people have more interest to become part of cultural life for the cultural. There's an existing cultural ecosystem, and 5, there is a big role played by the very place where people live, and this can really have influence on how satisfied and happy they are with their life, and other aspects. So, who came to the opening ceremony? The data that we have been able to gather from the phone operators, we know that over 51,000 people, unique visitors came, which means unique visitor means that when someone comes on Friday and comes back on Saturday and comes back Sunday, this is still only once. The person considered to be present only once. And since we have been able to distill this from mobile operators, we know some social demographic information about these people, how old they were, where they came from. And of course, we also were trying to find out what the overall degree of satisfaction was. And we had a 5.75 out of 7, the degree of satisfaction, or the rate of satisfaction. Of course, there were different aspects evaluated by the people. The less positive evaluation was the evaluation of traffic infrastructure, but at the same time, more than 80-something% of those people asked said that the probability of their visiting Trenčín next time has been increased. And then again, we also wanted to find out whether people were willing to pay for something similar in the future. 56% of people were able to pay on average 18 euro for something like this. Maybe more my economically minded colleagues can tell you more about this. Also, we have numbers of people who took part, more than 1,000 people, 100 journalists, and more than 200 volunteers. And at the same time, it was very important to have the community idea of being the community witnessed by the involvement of many schools from different levels. Okay, one more thing: the unique visitors came to the downtown area, the center of the city, but we also were able to connect other areas of the city, not just the center, and involve the neighbors through the network of living neighborhoods. Speaking of international visitors, they comprised 5% of all visitors that came. Most of the visitors, 80%, came from the Trenčín region itself. And speaking of the international visitors, it's interesting to see where they came from. And they were more than half of them were coming from the Czech Republic, and the rest being represented by the surrounding countries, Austria, Poland, Ukraine, and Germany. At the same time, and this is something I do not have here, then it really pays off to say, it's interesting to say that other countries such as Japan, USA, China, and Korea were also represented. So this went beyond the regional European scope. This only also connects to the fact that we are also starting to monitor the development of tourism, and we do see tourism being increasing because we see that as opposed to last year, or in comparison to last year, there has been an increase that recorded by 16.5%. Also, the number of overnight stay has increased, which testifies to the fact that people become more interested in coming and visiting Trenčín. And also, this shows, although the overnight stay statistics also are now supplemented by the mobile operators' data, which allows to see exactly what places these people keep coming from. So for now, we have been able to see, for example, just like for the opening weekend, here, for example, we see even something more, that 43% are people that would come from the region of Trenčín, but the ratio of people from abroad or international tourists coming to Slovakia is on an increase. For example, Austrians keep coming more to Trenčín. The next area that we are monitoring is the perception of the city, how the city is perceived. We did have an all national questionnaire last year, and more than half of the respondents say that yes, they now perceive Trenčín in better light, due to the fact that Trenčín was made the Trenčín Year, or was awarded with the title. And something similar we were able to see from the opening weekend, that 70% of respondents stated that the event helped them to perceive Trenčín in a better light. So we also wanted to see something specific, or specific experiences that people had, not just positive, but also some negative experiences that people might have had. So here are some of the examples, some or the mostly shared examples. For example, the atmosphere, the sense of belongingness, the artistic program. That was something that people liked very much. It was emotional. It was it moved them. It was very profound and symbolically meaningful. We also did learn that they said that it made them feel more proud. There was an interesting aspect, and that was the involvement of volunteers. And we also, one of the chapters of our report deals with the involvement of our volunteers. So now the critical feedback would mention things like issues related to how user-friendly, where the document was, where the material that described the events, or for example, the accessibility or the opening hours of the castle on Saturdays and so on. So now we'll go to a more general part, and I said that this is also something that has the context of our other investigations and research. For example, we also are interested in knowing what kind of barriers people have not to participate in cultural events. It's interesting that these barriers that people mention are not financial barriers or physical barriers, but these barriers are barriers of not knowing enough about the culture events, or the barrier of not knowing enough about what my place in this sphere of things is, and or for example, not knowing how individually tailored the event is to my needs. So this is something that makes us think about the future activities and how to tailor them more to people's needs. Also, we already have seen that Trenčín is specific for its high level of social cohesion, so that people are cohesive, they cling to one to another, which is beyond the Slovakian average, 33% was in 2024. However, in 2025, it grew to 41%, even more than in the Czech Republic. And at the same time, for example, in Scandinavian countries, just to put this in perspective, now the social cohesion perception is 72%. So to see this more in detail, the social cohesion would show us that the thing that people trust more is something that you might expect is people trust more their neighbors, their family members, and what they trust less are foreigners or people who are from different ethnic, social, church groups. And so they're in these indicators, um, it is it become lower as years go by. And so the last of the important things that we included in the report is the research of culture and creative industry, where of course we keep monitoring the statistical data on what types of businesses make or comprise the culture industry. It's interesting to see that more than 50% of culture creative industry is based in Trenčín. So now this already provides a robust ecosystem in Trenčín itself, but we at the same time we are able to identify that a lot of these businesses are understaffed, or they have very little or few employees, and that makes them very local, and they may potentially be endangered just due to the fact that they have less people employed. As you could see, I'm nearing the end of my presentation. In the previous slide, you saw the statistical data, but you also do a statistical research and questionnaire, because this creative culture industry is then the basis for our next educational programs. So we do have surveys where we try to learn what people's needs are, and on the basis of our findings, we later work with these needs and use them as the basis for our future activities. The most frequently mentioned barriers are the lack of funding, lack of grants that at this time may or may not be accessible, and the lack of expertise, the lack of qualified personnel, and technological preparedness. And so, based on this, we were able to define risks and weaknesses that, for example, include in the area of social cohesion. It is important to focus on interconnecting different communities and social groups, and with the barriers existing, we need to show people that these events are for them, and they really are individually prepared and made and tailored for specific people's needs. Speaking about strengths, we see that how on the regional and the national level, the attention to Trenčín is increased. Trenčín has become more dominant as opposed to the previous time period. It has been labeled as something exceptional. The confidence in between people and trust is beyond the Slovakian average. The volunteer program also testifies to the fact that more social links are being created, and the culture and creative sector is active, and it's on. The numbers are increasing. Now, I also have been sweating quite a lot during this presentation. However, we are willing to take your questions. Thank you very much. Maybe now you are asking yourselves, maybe you're not asking yourselves, but why this report was so comprehensive, let's say. And so this may have answered your doubts and your questions. Now, the opening ceremony could have been done as a one big single show, but it also could have been done as something that has its, logic line. And we tried to show you today that it was just about, the impression, but it really feeds something to the future events. Uh, the directors would come with an idea, with some forecast, and the reality, the implementation actually gave us the mirror how much of what we had planned was really achieved. And when you compare these presentations, these outlooks, gives you the answer that not everything has been accomplished as planned. However, our the team of monitoring personnel has been functioning since its very beginning phase, and it will function until 27, when we have like this big conference. We'll organize this conference where we have the evaluating report, the assessment report, and it will be presented in a big fashion. So when you look at the calendar, we are now in May of 2026. Now the bigger chunk of the year is ahead of us. So before we take questions, I would like to thank Lumir Katka for today's presentations, but at the same time to the whole team involved in project management, directors, oral partners, stakeholders, for the fact that they're still with us, for their taking part in this big event, this extraordinary event. So for my part, thank you very much. Without you, I would not have been here. Thank you to the investigation team, to Rafaela, to Katka, to all other colleagues for not only being with us and monitoring this part, because without their input, we would not have had the data for assessing. And today we said culture is important for the city, for the people to live better, to have better relationships, and it has more quality impact that goes beyond simple impressions and making fun and being present at different events. So I'm thankful to the investigation team that they help us investigate and assess. So thank you to everyone. And now it's time to ask you maybe to raise your questions, to voice your questions, and Lomir and Katka come forward, and we will be taking the questions if there are any. Thank you very much for now.
Áno, páči sa. Ja ti dám aj mikrofón, ktoré počuť pre istotu na zoznam. Ďakujem, pekný deň všetkým.
Thank you.
Stanko, ty si sa vyďakoval až.
Thank you to Stano for your involvement. I'm part of the cultural committee, and we did thank many people, and I think this is a good platform to give thanks not only to you as the present director, but also to your predecessors, those who were directors before you, and people who stood with the project since its inception phase. Patrik Žák, Janov Forgáč, Rišo Rybníček, all those people who have accompanied the projects, although some people still find trouble believing in the project even today. I do believe, and I'm convinced that the whole project, the whole ceremony that happened in February started to gradually change people's outlook on how things are and what we do here. And I think, Yastana, you already mentioned this, that this project is both for people who want and for people who do not want. Let me correct this a little bit. This is this is not just for people who want or do not want. This is for people who want, and also for those who do not know that they want something. And we all need something, whether or not we are aware of what we need. And this has been testified by all of us since the beginning of this year. That culture has been uniting not only local governments, not only people, inhabitants of the region and the city, but also has been able to connect something seemingly inconnectable. For example, different stakeholders from the private, public sector. So honestly, from my own perspective, thank you very much. And so one of the most outstanding and the nicest uh, symbols was the last week's parade, or the last week's open uh, market or neighbor market in one of the streets, Korzo Soblowska, and it did not really need any advertisement this year because last year it had a huge, tremendous success. And this makes me believe that 2026 Trenchin will be the best advertisement for Trenchin ever into the far future. So again, let me thank this stage, this time to thank all of you. And I have never felt myself being proud of Trenchin as over the last weekend, where which is the culmination of a meticulous work of many stakeholders and artists. I have no questions, but I think this would be very timely, and to just give thanks also to the director and to also all of you, the stakeholders, and I think you do share my opinion as well.
Ďakujeme. Áno, ja som poďakoval aj všetkým poslancom, aj
Thank you. Of course, I did not omit any the thanking the mayor, the MPs. So we have to communicate with this. These are public funding, so we need to communicate all this.
teraz mali pocit, že úseky padnuli otázky, ale ak niečo je, tak či si si beriem.
Are there questions? Yes. There's one. Thank you. Thank you for organizing these events. Okay, now we present ourselves. We have our own websites, all social media, but are there, for example, some partnerships between cities? For example, you go to Finland and then you have a partnership city in another country. For example, there is a music festival here in Trencin, Pohoda, which attracts a lot of people. Do you plan events for the future that could also contribute to increasing the number of visitors from the international arena visiting Trencin? You know, there's my colleague Martin Mojžiš from the European Dimension. He's in charge of developing relations with people from different countries, different cities. Now we do organize a lot of awareness events. But to answer your question, yes, although this is not our main activity, but we do organize events that raise awareness. Yes, so this is a European project, a European culture capital. For us, it's important that all what we do have a European dimension. But it also wants to say that each project, each program that we have has its own international curator or international artist who is responsible. So just as been said by the director, for example, we have coaches. What is a coach? Coach is someone who nominates the culture managers, and he also, he's someone who is the liaison person between the artists from abroad and our artists. We also have our colleagues from the marketing department who do inform people, publish articles in the international arena. Yes, we also have seen numbers that the opening ceremony was heavily published also in the international space. So we try to interconnect this to attract people, and we do feel those of us who are the stakeholders and who see Trencin would like to see Trencin from the perspective of people visiting Trencin from abroad. For example, Trencin is being changed. There are menu at local restaurants already in English. This is a meticulous work that is not maybe seen at the first glance, but we do see that Trencin is gradually changing and opening itself up. And although we do meet with issues and challenges, but we overall all in all, we see that Trenčín is advancing also in this area, becoming more and more open. And as has been said, Trenčín is an open city, but at the same time, it will be inclusive in terms of language and other information that we will deal with. So to entertain your second question, maybe it will sound like this for the first time. No, we are not creating a new or competitor or competing festival to Grape or Pohoda. It would be maybe something redundant, which we don't want to do, but we're doing another thing. We have created a new format. We've tried to take, the ceremony showed us one thing or made us think of other things that it really pays off to to cooperate between regional cities and big cities. When we create a common platform, for example, we will organize a European Culture Summer where we have a number of cities cooperating, creating one common platform. We open it up to new dimensions, and so of course the cooperation is at a different level. The communication is at a different level where we have these big stakeholders. And as you know, Trenčín is full of culture and will stay full of culture. But in some instances, we do need to have the communication being more focused, more concentrated. Speaking of large-scale events, something that was not initially planned to be really developed as it is really developed is the Korzo Soblavska, which is the neighborhood, the neighborhood fair where we stop the traffic in one of the main city streets in the cities and have the neighbors go out to the streets and be together. So this is something we did not plan, and a couple other things that we plan and have shown very beneficial. My question to Lumir is, if you were to distill one single moment, because you and I were running back and forth from one event to another event, I did not even had time to visit the author's reading of my favorite author because I was forced to be present at many events. Although I was looking forward to be at the author's reading, did not make it. So if you were to depict one, maybe negative or maybe positive highlight of this, what would it be? I was also running back and forth from morning to the evening, and I've tried to see at least a bit of something, of everything. You know, ending my day with the theatrical performance for kids, being there. But this is a good question. What maybe stands out to me, or maybe something that was not so positive? Okay, just to put it in perspective, this business is something that I've been involved in for tens of years, for decades. So that's why it makes me mention specific things just to let you imagine specific things, specific people, what specific things they have done. So now this emotional highlights that I really experienced. Mila Halgova is an artist who reads her own work. We wanted an 80-year-old artist or writer to open the show. Not very many people recognize her, for example, at a petrol station, or if they saw her. But we were trying to really look for someone who will be an epitome of something that we wanted to spread to people. She would share her story of love, but not love to a husband or to a man, but she would share her love to the partner being the city. And so we wanted to take this motive and to make people witness the fact that there is something valuable in you plan an event that has so many events, sub events, so many things in different angles. And so when we built the stage and we saw how steep the stairs were, say, oh, will this 80-year-old lady climb up the stage and go there? We were not really comfortable with that. But we wanted to have this lady sitting there and reading her own poetry and work to the thousands of people there, and said, will this be something that she will manage to climb upstairs? But she really was very, very cooperative, and she did manage this. But then Also, I would like to mention something that did not go as planned. We we try to also be perceptive of other cities and their failures in the past. For example, if you come to an event like this, you have big emotions, big ideas, big impressions. But when I go there to different cities, I already have a different time frame when they, for example, before they prepare the stage, how they do the lighting, the logistics, and so on. And something that I really learned, something interesting, when we were in one of the cities called Kremnica, still could not, you know, pronounce that name correctly. So what happened? We also learned one important thing. In Kremnica, they wanted to finish the event with a big drone show, but it did not go the way they had planned. People were expecting something to happen. Uh, they saw the drones, but they did not see the drones as the culmination of it, but as a preparation of something that was to come. But that something had never come. So I said, oh, let's be careful. Now might also end up the way they did in Kremnica. We need to have a grand finale that people just don't stay there and wait for something else. But we were not able to get the drone show being the culmination, but we did it the following day. Yes, we did not have it the way we had planned. For example, we wanted to have uh, we wanted to have the castle lit in blue and yellow, and we also expected a lot of people, provocatively tell us that this is a Ukraine color. This is not something, that is conducive to Trenchin's image and something. So we do have a lot of moments to evaluate things and to learn from, let's say failures. But I could say 99% of what we had planned really did, turn out well. And why? One important thing is because we had a very good help by the weather to do the European grand opening ceremony in February is not really something that is an easy thing in terms of weather. I did in the past did something like this in another town, and it was in May before. When you do things in May, you have a good morning program, and then evening, uh, you can still do things all day long. Uh, I also experienced the fact that the whole program had to be canceled and shifted to another date. But so all the more I'm happy that we were able to do it in Trencin in February, thanks to the weather as well. I just little addition to what you've said. Katka mentioned the confidence and trust. It's too bad we did not measure it in real time because when I thanked my colleagues for their confidence and the confidence we felt from the people, from our colleagues, from the visitors, just as Lumin said, we really tried to hide as much as possible to have people in suspense and to make it more emotional. Unlike other music events where they first share with people the big names to make them excited. So we did not disclose the information that the big artists are going to be present at the opening ceremony. So it was the first time people saw. It was actually as soon as the people saw them, they learned that these people were they. We not Okay, Katka, maybe if there are no other more questions, you also spent that weekend out in the streets. So if you have a kind of a funny situation to share or something maybe less scientific to share with us. I do have something. Something that there are so many of our investigators that we were helped by students. We were to coordinate 40 investigators. So all my weekend I spent in my office, with the exception of Friday, where we had the Living Neighborhood initiative, and I was part of the Living Neighborhoods initiative on Friday, and I really did enjoy that, the atmosphere, and I was even able to meet people with whom we had founded the storytelling club. So no, apart from being in the office, I also did enjoy something. And of course, the manifest thing that I was really impressed by that manifest thing, being Trencinian myself, and I could see a lot of my thinking being in the people's responses. This is a great moment, as Katka just said. The fact that a lot of volunteers who took part of this, re- did not really enjoy the opening ceremony just because they were volunteers. Because, for example, like here, Laura, one of them, who had to take part in the preparatory phase, and a lot of volunteers who maybe thought that when I become a volunteer, I will be right there, and they ended up seeing things from the backstage, which they had not really expected. Anyway, what I want to say is very important, and maybe you're aware of the fact that, I mean, you could let's go on thanking to people who really went beyond of what they really were supposed to do, and more than the two of us did, and so they really sacrificed a lot. And those people who had worked their heart out would be many of them would be those who least would experience the grandeur and the emotional outcome of that thing. For example, Maciej was charged with, that when I come up with something with Stan or something nice, so someone has to oversee that thing or something. Maciej, for example, for weeks he was someone involved in logistics, in the making the people feel secure, and it could have taken just one negative incident and that it would have spoiled the whole atmosphere. So Maciej was one of those who really oversee the security measures, and I also was one of those who did not see uh, anything in its entirety, because I was running back and forth, overseeing people. You have to instantly, talk to people, you know, where they should look, what they should look for. People who were there at the parking lot, for example, directing the traffic, so they did not enjoy the ceremony. And so I could go on, naming a lot of these examples. So, for example, when we talk about what this means in the European dimension, and I can speak about 100 people from ECOC, from different culture European cities, and Martin, had to spend a lot of time with them, to accompany them. Different people, who were in charge of entertaining these people, attending to their needs. So we would have all these people involved with the big goal of having the visitors, being impressed. But these people really not taking part of the emotional Outcome. A lot of volunteers literally said, you know, just because they coordinated the traffic, they could not see the grand opening ceremony and so on. So many thanks to them. So for me, one of the outstanding moments, when Jana Kirchner concert was the follow-up thing after the grand opening ceremony. There was a big Slovak singer would be invited, and so she would take the stage with a big orchestra. And so after the orchestra left, still the heaters were on, so I would sit backstage behind that big concert singer, and with the backstage being heated, and I just really did enjoy this, and I realize it now that in the show we presented the statement manifest. So maybe I will show you. We will send you additionally the statement manifest, which was like a scene played, acted out as part of the show. Many volunteers were not able to see it the whole, because of security. A lot of people would stand in a very obtuse angle to the show, not being able to see anything from the show, just being there, making sure that people are safe. And just speaking about the stage itself had been built in a place that's above the fountain. It is an inclined surface, and that inclined surface was really loaded with tons of weight, and at the same time, it was located not because just it was close
kvôli tomu dialogu medzi tou skalou, inak to
to
malo
the
takú
rock
veľkú
or
skalu,
to the
ten
castle.
pár.
Well,
Zároveň to
the
bol
stage
známy
was
realizátor, ktorý
remodeled into a form of rock. The
materiál,
material that you saw on the stage was reminiscent of the rock, but the material was only something that was could be produced only one single company here in Slovakia. So just to make things more interesting, something we forgot to mention. But at the same time, the stage stood at that place because many people would ask us, why did you have to cut off two trees to accommodate that stage? Well, we had to do this because of the security. These were decorative trees, and we replanted them afterwards. Anyway, our square is too small to be able to accommodate tens of thousands of people safely. You saw a lot of zones there, particular local zones. So now zonation of, or breaking this place into different zones was really a security measure that we had to do. We have, for example, a monitoring report from the security center where it had all the inputs from security, the data, and I just must tell you that no major incidents happened. Many people, the most severe was the or dehydration of some people. So we were really lucky and happy that no major incidents happened. We had security drones overseeing and flying over, the people. And not many people realized that when the main show was on, we had to close the square and not allowing people to come in or go out. Not very many people realize this. So, but just from this is just like an inside scoop of what really was taking place when people were at the square. Our colleagues know that when we start talking, then the time flows very, very slow. So, Lumir, the last thing, you did not really have time to ask questions, but one thing needs to be said. Important thing. We sit at this place, at this building where we are in now. We see a person, Martina, which reminds me of the fact, an important fact, that we need to really thank one more person. I do a lot of projects like this, the project that somehow interrupt the daily life of communities and cities with the goal of improve people's lives and make it more emotional and more outstanding. But the experiencing how different entities took their part, museums, galleries, police, regional offices, music schools, individual artists. Just to put this in perspective, we have tens people who comprise the Cultural Information Center, which is the organizing body of the event. We had guides, we have choreography, personnel. We had over 1,000 people who took part in the preparation and in the organization of the event. Anyway, much could be said, but many thanks to also to this person. When you meet me as the liaison officer who is now involved in everything, it may, my involvement may seem shallow at first glance, but it only looks like this because I keep meeting a lot of people. And when there is a warm atmosphere in the city, how it shows, and I'll show you data, where the vibe, the good vibe, the commitment, and the volunteering spirit shows. And does show in statistics and in metrics. Planning this event, we were asking ourselves questions: how many people might come to this? Well, the basis of our thinking was our experience of different cities in the past, where we would take into consideration the AI computation of the square meters being densely taken by the people who come there. Anyway, what we did find out is that normally in the cities, it's about 10% of the population would come to the show. When you take 50,000 people city, and we have 51,000 people living, and we have 30,000 people participating on that Saturday. We had to stop people for 6 times from coming into the square. This only testifies to the fact that this was taken as everyone's shared common vibe or idea or atmosphere, because taking this matrix of only 10% of people showing up, we were expecting 5 or 6,000, and now we had 30,000 people showing up. So this is amazing. This is testimony to the fact that it was really, really positive. So thank you again for your attention. While you do look tired, some of you, the program is being exhaustive, and the people are exhausted. The project will be gradually made available to you. If you know it, if you really want it today, the project or the report is available. We will make it part of our website. Katka has also included her contact details. If you do have more questions about certain details, please ask Katka, write her. Thank you again to Katka Tulumir for being able to help me organize this, and thank you to all. We have catering here. Thank you to our host, Hviezda Center, and please enjoy the day, enjoy the summer, and the cultural summer starts from July until the end of September, so please do enjoy this. Thank you again, and bye-bye.